for the region of Assam, where a lot of great black tea comes from, and they support education. So young kids not maybe necessarily having opportunities for school or needing improved conditions at those schools. So there's another commitment that they've made with Mercy Corps to help in that region, which is just awesome.
Right.
So, shout out to them. Um, so you can know that even though Stephen Smith tea maker teas are, maybe twice as much money as you normally would spend on tea if you weren't sort of a connoisseur. It's really because that tea is exceptional, really, really exceptional, just like a fine wine is exceptional and complex, but it's also kind of a double do good there where you're not only are you treating yourself to something really, really amazing, but you're also helping support other causes that they don't advertise. Um, and then there's the University of Oregon School of Architecture and Allied Arts, which I'm also kind of an emeritus board member, and they're the leading school for sustainable design in the country, and they have, ironically, maybe the worst facilities, and are desperately trying to fundraise and find individuals to help them build new facilities, build new space. They're really it's the barber with the really bad haircut kind of thing. They've overachieved, for 100 years. They're 100 years old, and they were the first. Actually, they were the first school in the United States to break from the Beaux-Arts method of teaching architecture and adopted more of a arts and crafts style. In fact, they were inspiring. That school was inspiring to Frank Lloyd Wright. So kind of, an interesting twist on things where they were influential to his career as well. So, I think that that's a school that even in some of the stuff that they're doing, that's product design initiatives, they've been creating concepts for what we call it, adoptive athletes. So, for instance, there's a wheelchair basketball team that they've been the students in the classes are designing, not only creating like potentially different wheelchair models to make that function more specifically for that sport, but also just braking mechanisms or seat mechanisms or harnessed mechanisms to allow them to perform and engage and play at a higher level and perform at a higher level. And it's just incredible to see the stuff that the students are doing and the work that the professors and teachers are doing to inspire them. It's that again, it's one of those things where when you see teachers that are that passionate, it's cool. It's just indescribably cool.
Well, as we wrap up, is there one thought that you'd like to leave with our community of listeners that you believe could make a difference in their lives?
Yeah. I could go on about this forever. I
Carry forth.
Yeah, I think everyone should learn to draw, and I think that every student should be exposed to it from the very, very beginning, because drawing is just a fundamental learning tool. Drawing is now I say everyone should learn to draw. I'm not saying everyone should learn to become an artist. I think everyone should probably try to do some exercise and to stay fit, but I don't expect them all to play third base for the Yankees.
That's funny.
In like mind, I do think everyone letters are pictograms. They are the letter A is the head of an ox. They're all from pictograms. So therefore, drawing, which existed something like 15,000 years or 10,000 years before writing, is fundamental. Without drawing, there'd be no literature. So because we wouldn't have any way to write. And, just to doodle, just to do a little sketch to help communicate an idea. I mean, I don't draw as well as I used to, but I could go anywhere in the world and not know the language, and I don't tell you that. But I can still communicate because I could sketch something or I could draw something to get an idea across or to ask for something or to, figure out a way, right, to communicate. And that's a pretty awesome thing to be able to do. And I don't have to draw well to do that even. I can express, in just scribbles and sketches. So people are, we're not taught to use, we're not taught to even express or do these things that are highly visual, and yet vision is our primary source of knowledge. Vision is the thing that we learn the most about the world with, and yet that's not included in our education, or I'll just say it's rarely included in our education. So I think that would, if we truly want to be the creative leaders in the world, we should teach our kids to draw.
Absolutely.
And not to be afraid to draw. Like, you don't have to be great. Just use it as a tool, just like you would use, you would use math as a tool, or use a note that you wrote as a tool to communicate.
I've been working with sketch noting over the last couple of years to try to force myself to learn to put concepts into illustrations. And it's ironic, at least to me, as a visual professional, how much I struggle with that. But when I do even remotely get something in the form on conference notes or listening to in a meeting, how much more memorable it is. And I've done a lot of reading on this and read, Mike Road and several other authors have put together really great books on sketchnoting and illustration. How important doodling is to memory and to understanding. And so just with that in mind, I'm trying to force myself to do it because I know it's beneficial. But it is a struggle because I think a lot of us do have the fear that our drawings will look simplistic or silly, and we pull back from it. And that shame is a shame.
Yeah, I was just going to say the word shame did come to my mind when you were saying that, because we are sort of shamed for not, which is why I think most kids just like immediately drop out of that. It's like, if you can't draw as well as Sally can draw, then you give up. Right?
Absolutely.
But Sally might not beat you in a 100-yard dash, and Sally might not beat you in a math quiz either. But that doesn't mean that she shouldn't, compete, or that she shouldn't learn math either, right? She shouldn't cower from those things because she's shamed that she didn't get the best grade in math, or, those are ridiculous things that happen to us. And sometimes, that's the that's the struggle with education. We use grades, we use these measures, and they would probably be more helpful if they weren't shared, right? So there'd be no shaming, but they were really a personal um, notation to help us get better at the things we could probably stand to work a little harder on. But drawing is one of those things where no one should be. Well, first of all, if somebody is good at that, then everybody would appreciate the arts just that much more because there'd be that recognition. Yeah, no, these guys can really do that well. Um, but secondly, there should be no bias to it. I'm thrilled when my clients try to sketch something for me, um, because I can see it better, or I can understand it better, and it's really truly helpful, I think.
And they probably understand it better as a result of doing it.
Yeah, and I'm thrilled. I mean, they always apologize.
Of course.
They always apologize. And it's like, this is not something to be sorry about. This is a celebration as far as I'm concerned. If you and I just sat here and doodled all day, that would be awesome. It would be an awesome day.
Deep relationship building by doodling.
Yeah. And then I used to do that with my daughter too. When she was little, we would often, when she and I would by ourselves go to dinner or something, there were a lot of restaurants that would put like a butcher paper across the table, and then they'd have like some crayons or something there for you to like just draw and preoccupy yourself while you were waiting for your meal to come. And that seemed to be sort of a popular thing in the 80s and 90s. And so as soon as she could literally lift a crayon, we would be doing what we call the doodle game. And that was one person would start with a mark and the other person had to make something of it. And we'd use different colored crayons so you could see the start and then you could see the completion. And, she would, as she got older, she would try to stump me in all these interesting ways. She'd draw like some, and you can only start, you can't lift and do some other mark. It can only be one continuous little scribble that the other person has to work from. And so she would like do some radical, crazy, practically cover the entire top of the table with some continuous, horrible mess of a, scribble. Like it looks a lot like the backside of most people's computers or home entertainment centers with the wires, and and then she'd lift her crayon off and it's like, okay, make something out of that, and you can just see her little 5-6-year-old mind trying to, get me. And so I would draw a little fly at the end of that line of scribbles, as leaving it as the path that the fly just traveled. Or I'd draw a Baroque frame around it and trap it as a piece of fine art, abstract art. And then, as we'd get older, the challenges because she became pretty good at drawing. And
as a result,
the challenge, yes. And the challenges would be, just a 1-inch long straight line, which now you have almost endless possibilities, and it almost defeats you by how much you could do and not how, try to edit now.
A lack of constraints, too much freedom.
Yes. Yeah, right. Exactly. Just like the head games of that, that would happen. But it was a great way to teach because there were all the lessons like, no, there's a solution no matter what. There's actually more than one solution every time. always. And it's almost mind